Hi, everybody.
Hello and welcome everybody. We are so excited to have Mike Archer back for lesson 3 of your sales training, and this is how you can get certified to become a sales professional with Archer Travel. How you doing, Mike?
I am well. We finally started to get some spring weather up here, and it's almost 70 degrees right now, which means now I got to start cutting the grass, but I digress. So today, wonderful people, we are on page 12 in the manual, lesson 3, and there's 3 things we want to cover today, and that is, it's called versatility. So if you remember last week, we started this whole process off by identifying behavioral styles, and hopefully you had some fun with this, and you started identifying the styles of some of the people around you, and it's kind of interesting. It'll confirm what you've already known, but now you know why. Now you can see the behavior patterns. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to go, okay, now that I'm loaded with all this information, what do I do with it? How do I respond to the people I'm talking to? And again, just like last week was a life skill where you can learn about somebody, this is also a life skill. This isn't just a selling skill. This is something that you can put to use in your everyday life, especially if you're having issues with conflict, anger management, anything like that. This is a great add-on to last week for conflict resolution, to settle arguments, get people calmed down in a tense situation, and we're going to walk you through how you do that today. But the first thing we want to concentrate on is called versatility. So now that you know the behavioral style, and remember I told you last week, it's not important to get somebody into one of the quadrants initially, because that's a little tougher, but it is easy to get them into one of the halves, either above the line or below the line, or right of the line or left of the line. So it's pretty easy to identify assertiveness, and it's also pretty easy to identify the level of emotionalness. So those are the things you want to concentrate on. So and everybody that you talk to will give you one of those first. They'll either give you their assertiveness or they'll give you their emotionalness. And we walked you through what some of those clues are last week. What are the clues that you pay attention to that help you identify what those are? Now that you've done that and you've practiced it for a little bit, now we're going to go on to what do you do with it? And the first thing is how do you get on the same page? How do you make sure that the person you talk to is going to continue to listen to you? And that's called versatility. And the very first paragraph, and it's in italics, and I want you to highlight this. Am I willing to temporarily change my behavior to accommodate the other person? So this is situationally specific as to what you're going to do in any given situation. All right. This behavior, your behavior, is called versatility. And the third paragraph down, it's our job as salespeople. It's our job to manage the emotions of our clients. It's our job to keep everything on an even keel. Remember, we know where we want to go in this process, which is to culminate in a sale. But because this is a relationship business, part of our job is to make sure that things go smoothly. Okay. Versatility, and the third paragraph down. Versatility is the ability and desire to manage interpersonal tension by making temporary changes to meet the style needs of another without sacrificing your own integrity. And that's key. It's possible to take this too far. And we're going to walk through how that can happen, and because you're trying to save a selling situation. It has to do with when we get to the conversational circle. how do you resolve objections? How do you talk to somebody? How do you make sure that both sides get their stories out? Okay. And you can see versatility is like a seesaw. All right. What is the task at hand? That's your fulcrum. The task at hand is we want to manage the interpersonal relationship by our telling tensions, which we're going to get into in a week or so. Your tension needs to balance with their tension. Both need to get your stories out. That's called telling tension. All right. So how do we do this? How do we become versatile? Well, there's two ways. The first way, which we're going to concentrate on, is the how. There's a how to be versatile and in what areas of where to be versatile. Right now, we're going to deal with the how. Okay, and that is over on where am I? Oh, it's on the right hand column. I got lost there for a second. I spaced out. So just so you know, this also is part of Jose's Wednesday training. All right. So this part of the meet and greet, getting to know the client. So, okay. So how do we become versatile? All right. So here are some of the characteristics. Physical appearance. This is part of the how now. Physical appearance. And it's important that, especially if you're making personal calls, that you are appropriately dressed. All right. So you can see on the how to be versatile at the bottom of the left column. Some of the elements are appealing physical appearance, well-groomed, properly dressed as appropriate to the viewer. Now, there's a couple of non-negotiables here. Number one, your hair's got to be clean. Number two, your nails have to be clean. Those are non-negotiables. Now, your physical appearance, your dress, that is something that's what you do is appropriate for the situation. An example, when I was calling on schools and I knew I was only going to be going into the classrooms that day and not meeting with administrators or purchasing agents, I would wear casual clothes or business casual. I would wear I'd wear a polo shirt, slacks, and hard-soled shoes. And I always had a belt on because the kids didn't want to see me. I intimidated people in coats and ties. Intimidate kids. It's just the way things are today. When I was growing up, everybody wore coats and ties. The teachers, principals, everybody you met was in coats and ties. The dress back in the 50s and 60s was way more formal than it is today. When I first started in this business, my company had a policy that we had to wear coats and ties, except I quit the day I walked down I was walking down the hall during passing period to go to the yearbook room, and some kid stops me in the hallway and he wanted to know if I was the narc and I was here to bust kids. I just started laughing, but that was the last time I wore a tie. Now, what I will do though is I will carry a dress shirt and a tie and a coat in my car if I know that on that particular day I'm going to be meeting with an assistant principal or a principal, somebody in the administration, or if I'm going into the district office to meet with an assistant superintendent, or especially if I'm meeting with the purchasing agent, because they all wore more formal dress and I wanted to dress up accordingly. So that's, you get the idea. Now, some people don't care about that, like my brother Ron. Ron wears Hawaiian shirt, shorts, and flip-flops all the time, and he doesn't care. Well, he does. When he's going on, because I was with him one time and he was in a Hawaiian shirt, but he had long pants on and hard-soled shoes. But Ron hates ties, so he never wears them, and that's okay. My brother Steve, who is an analytical, is much more formal. His dress is always, his pants are always crisp with a nice crease in them, ironed polo shirts, and he's always impeccably dressed. So that's physical appearance is one way. Communication and pacing is another way. And that's the ability, look at that next one down. It's the ability to communicate well verbally and with good grammar, diction, and especially pacing. Okay. as appropriate to your contract. Now, who would pacing? Why is pacing important? It's part of the horizontal scale. Pacing is part of the assertiveness scale. So if you know that you're dealing with an expressive or a driver, you want to speed yourself up a little bit, especially if you're an amiable or an analytical. If it's the other way around and you know that you talk quickly and you're dealing with somebody who's slower paced, it's a very simple matter just to pay attention to how they talk and slow yourself down a little bit. Okay. Next one is competence that shows you are well versed. So what they're looking for here is a competence and a compatibility. Now, by the way, those of you that are going to counsel your children or your coworkers or a friend on what happens when people look for a job, I'm going to clue you in right here. There are two things that employers look for when they do job interviews. Are you competent? Can you do the job that they are considering hiring you for? And are you compatible? Are you going to be compatible with the rest of the workforce? That's what they look for. And then the other look for how do you take care of yourself, which is why I mentioned the hair, the nails. Another thing employers look for is, are your shoes polished? Now, the reason for that is they want to see if you have the discipline to take care of yourself, then you're going to have the discipline to take care of whatever business it is that they've assigned to you in this company. All right. Evo's a little different because you are self-employed. So this kind of doesn't work for people who are self-employed, but you can understand, you can see where we're going with this. So they're looking for competence. Are you competent? And how you show your competence is how you speak, the way you talk. How do you communicate? Are you listening to what they're telling you? And then the compatibility is, like I said, the very first thing people make a decision about is, are they going to continue to listen to you? It's not if they're going to buy from you. That's down the road. It is, do I want to continue listening to this person? That's part of the compatibility. And by the way, all of this happens like within the first 30 seconds to a minute when you first meet somebody. Within 30 seconds, we make about 30 judgments about people. We make judgments on their financial status, their educational status, their social status. We make all kinds of judgments based on what is the first thing we see. Okay, so the next thing is your verbal and nonverbal feedback. All right, and so the feedback is appropriate to manage attention. And we're going to talk about both the verbal and the nonverbal feedback down the road. But those are some of the things that you want to look for. And then the seventh thing is your facial expression and your eye contact. Again, if your eye contact is not very strong and you're dealing with a right of the line person, you need to up your game a little bit. And it might be a little uncomfortable. So I want you to think of comfort zones as the target. All right. And targets have circles on them, big circles going down to the little bullseye. Right now, your comfort zone, a lot of you, your comfort zone is going to be in that little bullseye. The whole point to styles and versatility and all of this stuff here is to help you expand your comfort zone from out of that bullseye to those ever increasing larger circles. That's the whole point to all of this. Okay, so that's the essence of what it is to be versatile, to temporarily change your behavior to match the style needs. And that's the key, to match the style need to accommodate the other person. All right, so now let's go through them one by one. And that's over on the right side of page 12. To be versatile, these are some of the things you're going to need to pay attention to where you can accommodate the other person. Analyticals have easy eye contact. They're left of the line. They're not that assertive. You need to be prepared. If you're an expressive and you're a global thinker, you're going to immediately get in trouble with an analytical if you're not prepared to show what it is, because they're going to have a lot of questions for you. You need to be accurate with them. You can't tell stories. You can't play games, especially you can't guess about stuff. I had a good story is I had a rep who I was mentoring when she first came into the business. And she had a habit of, yes, you can do that. And I'm sitting over in the corner cringing because I know what they asked could not be done. And so I had to tell her, it's okay not to know something. And we're going to get into this later on. It's okay to not know. But what it's not okay is you let it sit there. When I first started, I didn't know anything about the yearbook business. I knew how to sell, but I didn't know anything about the yearbook business. And so when somebody asked me a question, you say, you know what? I haven't got a clue what the answer to that is, but I know who does, and I will have an answer for you tomorrow. And I will make sure I get back to you with that answer. Would that be okay? And most of the time it was, but sometimes they go, no, I got to have an answer now. I said, okay, find me a phone. I'll call the plant. And so I would talk to my customer service agent in the plant, and then we would get an answer right there on the spot. So you need to be accurate. Never, ever guess. You need to, with an analytical, they're going to want facts and data. They're going to want proof. You need to be precise with them. And remember, if you're a fast decision maker, they are a slow decision maker. And we're going to show you how you deal with that in later lessons. Also, the thing that you want to enforce with them is that the decision is correct. They're making whatever decision they make is the correct decision, even if it's not working with you. And you need, that's hard. That's a hard concept to accept. But a lot of times, if you acknowledge that whatever decision they make is the correct decision, they start thinking about, well, maybe I do want to do business with this person. So don't be afraid of agreeing with them that their decision is correct. There may be, and there's going to be a way I can show you down the road on resolving stalls and objections, how we can get them back to our side. It's a fun exercise and you'll like doing it. Okay, the next one is, what do you do with us amiables? Again, easy eye contact. We're slower paced. Minimize, with an amiable, you need to minimize the risk. All right, so when you walk in with the presentation or you're learning about them and they want to know something, you need to minimize the risk with them. So it could be anything. They're worried about the dates. They're worried about the add-ons. They're worried about extra costs. So all you need to do is just reassure them, you know what, before you go, we were going to go over every single thing where you can save money and where you can choose to spend money so that there's no surprises. So as long as you're paying attention to what scares them, and this is true for all four of the quadrants, but especially with the amiables, you're going to go a long way to making that sale. Be patient with them. Because they're slower paced and they want the relationships, they're going to try to establish a relationship with you. Go along with it. That's going to be tough for you analyticals and drivers, but it's a crucial part of the process for an amiable. Okay, give them assurances. Again, remember, they're the relationship people, and it goes along with minimizing the risk. So just give them assurances, let them know everything's going to be okay, and especially let them know you're going to take care of them. Even when they're on their trip, you are available to talk to them. And it doesn't matter if they're halfway around the world, you are able to talk to them. And that might mean you're taking a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's 9 o'clock in the morning where they are. So just provide assurance. Again, they're slow decision makers. And with an amiable, the whole key to that, the whole key to working with an amiable is developing the relationship. Not necessarily being their friend, but letting them know you care about them, you care about their trip, you care about what happens to them. That's the key for an amiable. Okay, expressives. Again, expressives are very opinionated. So if you can, reinforce their opinions. Now, they may have some opinions that you can't go along with. And I'll give you an example of that next week. So reinforce your opinions, avoid at all cost arguments, because expressives especially are quick. They love playing devil's advocate, and they will ask you a question out of the blue just to see your reaction, because that's the way they're wired. They are wired to see how people act. All right. So avoid arguments, motivate them with stories, help them along. Sorry. Motivate them with stories, cite prominent people. Remember, expressives are name droppers. They love to cite prominent people. They love it when you cite prominent people. So that's really something fun to do. So expressive, remember, they are global thinkers. Settle all final details with them. So when you get them on the bottom line, you can talk in generalities when you get them on the bottom line. But after you've made the sale, it is incumbent upon you. You've got to make sure, are all their travel documents in place? Is their travel insurance in place? Have they had their COVID shots? All of that stuff that is detail work that you see in contracts. You need to make sure if they're on a really complicated trip, you make sure that every stop is covered. If they're on a cruise and they want a land tour, a port tour, you got to make sure that that's all set up before they go. Now, if they change it while they're on that trip, that's up to them. But going out, you know that they have everything they need. So that's how you settle all the final details with an expressive. And again, they're quick decision makers. And when you're talking with them in your selling situation, focus on the big picture. All right. Again, this is a life skill. So if you're in a conflict resolution, all of these same things apply. All right, drivers. Drivers have strong eye contact, so do you. And that's going to be a challenge for us amiables and analyticals. Keep it simple and direct. Drivers move fast, they absorb information fast, and they make decisions fast. So keep it simple and direct with what you're doing. Don't waste their time. Don't get into telling stories with a driver. And just like the analytical, use facts and data when you're making your presentation. Stay on task. Again, avoid the storytelling. Keep everything going down the straight and narrow. The drivers, remember I told you when we're going on our road trip and we're going from Seattle to Portland, drivers like to go straight down I-5. Just give me the facts, ma'am. Like Joe Friday and Dragnet, for those of you that remember Dragnet, and head on down the road on I-5. Expressives will take the scenic route. Analyticals will usually take the direct route. And amiables, they could go either way, but a lot of times you want to take a little side trip with them, they're fine. But drivers, that's the I-5 corridor, baby. All right. Fast decision making, and you want to show them options. Now, there's a danger in showing options to anybody. And this is the dangerous part that many of you new Evo agents fall into, is that you think you have to give your client every option in the entire world. So essentially what you're doing, because you don't really know what they want, you plan for a whole bunch of things you hope they will like. It's like taking your darts out and throwing them at the wall with no target on the wall. Or you paste a whole bunch of targets up on the wall and start throwing darts at one of them, hoping that that's the right target. We're going to show you how to only put up one target and hit that target. So what I want you to do is, hold on a second. Let me call you back. I'm teaching. That was my brother, Ron. So I love it when I can hang up on him. So anyway, show options with them. Now, here's the key though. when you're putting together a package, and we're going to get in this when we start asking questions and the kinds of questions you ask, we're going to build up a specific package for that specific client for what they want to do. All right. So here's what I want. Here's what we're going to do on this. This is down the road. Okay. That's how we're going to do this. Show them the options, but never more than 2, ever. The biggest complaint that Jose gets when he does his Wednesday training is that he says people call in and says, well, I gave them like 5 options and they won't pick one of them. I don't know what to do. You give them too much information. Even drivers can get too much information. Now, who's going to go crazy when you give somebody 5 options? Expressives. They're going to go nuts because they don't know how to deal with it. We're going to show you, just like the old Reader's Digest articles, we're going to show you how to build a Reader's Digest book, condensed version that they're going to read. How do we know they're going to read it? Because we've asked the questions. It says, what kind of a book do you like to read? And then we're going to go back and build that book for them. That's exactly the way it is with travel. You're building a book that you know they will read. You're building a program that you know they will be interested in. That's it. It's a matter of what questions do you ask. But this is how you get on the same page with people. Okay, so now there's a how and then there's a where. Where can you be versatile? Now I want you to pay attention to this because this is on the test. There's a how. The test questions have to do with where can you be versatile? And there's 3 areas: what to support, use of time, and decision making. And that's the chart on page 13. All right. So what do we support? You can see the things that I've underlined here in blue, and I want you to highlight those as well. What to support? With an analytical, the decision is right. And also, as a rule, analyticals and drivers don't normally like to be touched. So if you're a hugger, that's a big no-no. Handshake is about all you want to do. All right. And also with drivers, you want to show them the options. So on the use of time, again, use of time has to do with your assertiveness. Are you quick pace, slower pace? So pay attention to that. There's no really big keys in timing, but in decision making, amiables develop the relationship. Expressives focus on the big picture, circle that. And then drivers, let them make the decision. So when you're talking to a driver and you want them to buy from you, it's simply a matter of, what do you think? That's a closing question. What do you think of this proposal? And then just wait for the answer, and they'll either say yes or no. So that's the key. So pay attention to this, study this. So there's a how and there's a where. And then finally, what happens when things start to go south on you? This is called backup behavior. And you all know it as the flight or fight syndrome. We were all raised with that. When people are under stress, they have a tendency to do one of 2 things. They either fight you or they want to get away from the situation. So what we're going to talk about now is this is how we're going to manage the stress levels in ourselves and in other people. All right. So who are likely to be the fighters? If you said expressives and drivers, you're right. They are the ones that they're the more assertive ones. So who are the people that are likely to take flight? People that don't like conflict, which would be amiables and analyticals. So this is our basis, because you've all heard of that, and it's easy to understand and it's easy to see where it fits into this program. Now, you should be on, what I want everybody to do is turn the page. We're on 14 and 15 now. So I want you to take a look at page 14 down at the bottom of the left-hand corner. Okay, this is key. Backup behavior confirms our home-based style, and it's an exaggeration of that style. So we're going to get into what each one of that means. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to circle the bottom paragraph on the left-hand column. Getting back up behavior involves, first of all, recognizing the stress. Then second, non-judgmentally seeking the cause of the tension. You don't know why the tension is there, but it's there. You don't know how it got there, but it's there. All you need to do is recognize, okay, something's happened here. Something's going on. I don't know what it is. How can I get this under control? And that's what we're going to talk about. How do we reduce the tension? Okay. With amiables, I'm going to go through this really quickly, but remember, it's an exaggeration of their home-based style. Amiables, the voice and the face go flat. They just shut down. And the reason they do that is because they care about the relationship. So they don't want to make you feel bad. So they internalize everything. Amiables are the hardest ones to recognize, because when you're talking to them and they go quiet, you think that they're agreeing with you when in fact they are withdrawing. So if you see some exaggerated behavior like that, pay attention to it, especially with an amiable. The eye contact gets broken. Their postures. A big thing to recognize when something is going south on you quick is the posture. And amiable, their posture will change. So instead of being upright and talking to you, they will go back and they will compact. They'll come in like this. All right. You can't see me, but my knees are together. I'm hunched over. My arms are up here like this. I'm protecting me. Okay. They withdraw internally. All right. Maybe not to that extent, but you get the idea. Analyticals, again, the voice and face goes flat, broken eye contact, but an analytical, and this confirms their home-based style. Remember, an amiable cares about the relationship, so they protect themselves. An analytical really doesn't, so their posture changes back and sideways like this. Now you can't see below, but I have crossed my legs and I've got this. So what have I done here? I've put up a wall. My arm, my thigh, my calf, I put up a big wall so that you can't get at me. Now, if it's bad enough, an analytical will actually get up. They'll withdraw physically. First, they'll withdraw emotionally, but they will also withdraw physically. I've seen my brother Steve get up and walk out of a room because the tensions were so thick. So, and none of us did anything about it to calm it down and get everything back. We have some interesting family dynamics. Let me put it that way. Drivers, their voices get louder and they have much stronger eye contact to the point where a driver will bore in on you. And they'll do this because their posture change goes forward and up. They'll come up. They're the in-your-face people. And they have a take charge attitude. All right. That's how it's not really an attack as much as they are saying, I got this. I'm in charge here. I'll take over. That's how they attack, is by not letting you respond. All right. So pay attention to the driver. And expressives, they get way more animated to the point where they'll start shouting. And their faces, they could get red in the face, strong eye contact. Their posture goes up. They're like the grizzly bear that's under stress. They'll get big. They'll sit up, they'll get big, spread their arms out like this, and they are not afraid. They will confront you physically, verbally, emotionally. There's nothing in their repertoire they won't use to get their tension under control. So that's how you can deal with that. Now, what happens when you can't get that stress under control? That's over on page 15. It's called the Z out. And the style rule, okay, so you can see some style rules here. It confirms a person's home-based style and is an exaggeration of their normal behaviors. We recognize, seek the cause, and reduce. The page 15 is kind of the summary. Okay, so what happens when we can't get our stress under control? Well, we migrate, and we always migrate in a Z pattern. And that's what this is. So since I'm an amiable, let me tell you what would happen if I can't get my stress under control. I'm going to migrate to the expressive. So if by shutting down doesn't work for me, I'll come over and I'll start attacking. And I've done that. And it's not fun. If that doesn't work, I still can't get my tension under control. I'll go up to analytical. I'll just leave. I've been known to get into a fight, and then I'll go out there, get in the car, and go somewhere, and come back an hour later. And when I can feel that it's not a fun feeling, and you guys have all been there. It's not a fun feeling to have all that stuff going on inside you, and it all settles right here in your chest and your stomach. You've all had that feeling. That's what backup behavior is. And I very, very, very rarely get all the way over into driver. So, but for each one of you, this is the pattern. So if you're a driver, you go driver, analytical, expressive, amiable. And you will continue to do that until you can get your stress under control. And there's no set time limit or time amount on any one of these. Typically, for me, I spend an inordinate amount of time in my home base. But then when I explode, I usually go boom, where I'm yelling and screaming, and then I go, well, that didn't work. Internally, that didn't work. So I spend maybe a minute, and then I'm here and I'm gone for an hour. So it's all your own personalities, and it's different for everybody, but this is the pattern. So if you're wondering why things happen the way that they do, this is why. And this is directly out of the personality styles that we talked about last week. So pay attention to this. This is how you can get marginal or non-responsive or tension-filled situations under control. Again, resolve the backup behavior. First of all, you got to recognize it. If you don't recognize it, you're toast. But then you seek the cause of the tension, which is non-judgmentally seek the cause of the tension. Okay, and don't be afraid to ask. Something's going on here. Did I say something? Is there something going on? Did I make a wrong comment? Did I upset you for some reason? I need to figure out what we're doing here because I sense something has changed. Can you share with me what that is? And then whatever the response is, say, okay, let's stop right here and let's talk about this so that we can get back on the same page and we can bring this back to a good place. And that's it. As long as you do everything non-defensively and non-judgmentally, you're going to do a lot to defuse whatever situation comes up. So that's it for today. Amanda, do we have any questions?
It doesn't look like we have any questions, and if they do have questions, they can reach out to you by calling you, or can you leave that screen up?
Oh yeah, hold on. Sure.
They can reach out to you at the email or the phone number on the screen.
There it is. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. Well, that's it from me, Mike. Anything else you want to add before we close out?
No, we kept them a little long today, but this is an important lesson. So if you want to get a head start, take a look at next week when we start talking about what kinds of questions to ask. So that's it for me today, guys. I had a blast talking to you. Sorry I went a little bit long, but I hope it helped you. See ya next week. Bye.